Today we're going to be covering 4 artworks. They're on pages 502 to 505 in Barron's.
Yes, today we're going to be discussing the conical tower and circular wall of Great Zimbabwe, the Great Mosque of Djenné, the wall plaque from Obis Palace, and Sika Dwa Kofi, also known as the Golden Stool.
The tower and walls of the Great Zimbabwe were at one time probably a royal residence for the rulers of Zimbabwe.
And the word Zimbabwe derives from a Shona term meaning house of stone, which is fitting seeing as this building is made of coarse granite blocks.
Taken together, the settlement encompasses a cluster of approximately 250 royal houses built of clay, which in addition to the other multi-story clay, the thatched homes would have supported as many as 20,000 inhabitants.
It is the largest stone complex built in Africa before the modern era, aside from the monumental architecture of ancient Egypt. The stone constructions of Great Zimbabwe can be categorized into roughly 3 areas: the hill ruin on a rocky hilltop, the great enclosure, and the valley ruins. The hill ruin dates to approximately 1250 CE and incorporates a cave that remains a sacred site for the Shona peoples today. The cave once accommodated the residence of the ruler and his immediate family. The great enclosure was completed in approximately 1450 CE, and it is too a walled structure punctuated with turrets and monoliths, emulating the form of the earlier hill ruin. Because the great enclosure shares many structural similarities with the hill ruin, one interpretation suggests that the great enclosure was built to accommodate a surplus population and its religious and administrative activities. Another theory poses that the great enclosure may have functioned as a site for religious rituals. The third section of Great Zimbabwe, the Valley Ruins, include a number of structures that offer evidence that the site served as a hub for commercial exchange and long-distance trade.
Archaeologists have even found porcelain fragments originating from China, beads crafted in South Asia, and copper ingots from trading centers along the Zambezi River and Central African kingdoms. Within the walls are tightly bounded, narrow, long passageways that force occupants to walk in a single file, much like how people must walk in the African bush.
The conical tower of Great Zimbabwe is thought to have functioned as a granary. According to tradition, a Shona ruler shows his largesse towards his subjects through his granary, often distributing grain as a symbol of his protection. The enclosure was abandoned in the 15th century, most likely due to the surrounding area's inability to supply food and extensive deforestation.
This also went hand in hand with the idea of control of food, equating to power, because without the ability to control the food there, the royals living within the walls lacked their main source of power.
The next artwork we will discuss is the Great Mosque of Djenné. It is in Djenné, Mali.
Djenné has been inhabited since 250 BCE and became a market center and an important link in the trans-Saharan gold trade.
This mosque, unlike almost every other mosque, is made entirely out of adobe mud.
Yes, this building material means that the mosque requires annual reconstruction after every rainy season because the rain melts away the exterior mud, and therefore it needs to be rebuilt in order to stay standing.
This reconstruction is a grand community activity called Crépissage de la Grande Mosquée.
Timber beams of palm wood through the exterior are both decorative and structural. These elements also function as scaffolding for the replastering of the mosque during the annual festive for the Crépissage.
During the annual festival of the Crépissage de la Grande Mosquée, the entire city contributes to the replastering of the mosque's exterior by kneading into it a mud plaster made from a mixture of butter and fine clay from the alluvial soil of the nearby Niger and Boni rivers.
The men of the community usually take up the task of mixing the construction material. As in the past, musicians entertain them during their labors, while women provide water for the mixture.
Over the years, Djenné's inhabitants have withstood repeated attempts to change the character of their exceptional mosque and the nature of the annual festival. For instance, some have tried to suppress the playing of music during the Crépissage, and foreign Muslim investors have also offered to rebuild the mosque in concrete and tile its current sand floor. Djenné's community has unrelentingly striven to maintain its cultural heritage and the unique character of the Great Mosque. In 1988, the tenacious effort led to the designation of the site and the entire town of Djenné as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO.
The mosque has an earthen roof with several holes covered by terracotta lids to let in light to the interior spaces along with fresh air.
This roof is supported by monumental pillars. There are also engaged columns along the facade that together create a rhythmic effect.
There are 3 tall towers in the facade of the Great Mosque, the center of which being a mihrab.
A mihrab is a central niche in a mosque to indicate the direction to Mecca.
Crowning ornaments on the minarets have ostrich eggs, which are symbols of fertility and purity.
The wall plaque from Oba's palace is the next artwork we'll be introducing. It decorated the walls of the royal palace in Benin, Nigeria.
It was part of the sprawling palace complex of wooden pillars covered with brass plaques.
The order of their placement on these pillars would have told the history of the royal lineage of Benin's Obas, who traced their dynasty all the way back to Aran Mian, whose son was the first Oba of Benin. However, the sequence of plaques is lost to us since they were long held in storage when found by Westerners in the 19th century. Most of these plaques, including this specific one, are made out of cast brass using the lost wax process, in which first a more malleable wax version of the final brasswork is made. It is then covered in clay and fired to harden the clay, removing the wax, which melts away in the process, hence the term lost wax. Hot molten liquid brass is then poured into the clay mold. As the brass cools, it hardens and the clay is removed, revealing the finished plaque. The plaques are also high-relief sculptures.
It's one of the 900 brass plaques produced, each between 16 and 18 inches long.
Metal products are rare in Africa, making these objects extremely valuable, which is why they would be found in such important places such as the royal palaces.
There was also an active trade within the Portuguese for brass, which is most likely how the Edo people of Benin came to acquire this brass.
The plaque has hierarchical proportions. The largest figure is the king, stepping on the head of a fallen leader.
The emphasis on the people is placed on the heads rather than the bodies, which are often small and immature.
The plaque depicts a ceremonial scene at court, showing the Oba or ruler being shielded. The Oba is the only one allowed to be shielded in the way depicted on the plaque. We know that the central figure is an Oba because of his distinctive coral-beaded regalia. Also, attendants hold shields above his head, either to protect him from attack or possibly from the hot tropical sun.
Yes, and the Oba is atop a horse. The horse was imported to Africa, showing the influence of Western culture on these pieces, as well as the rosette shapes and the background, inspired by Christian crosses from Europe.
The last artwork we'll be discussing today is Siga Dwa Kofi, or the Golden Stool.
The golden stool is gold inlaid into wood, and it has cast gold attachments.
These attachments are golden bells hanging from the side to warn the king of danger.
The stool is of great importance to the Ashanti, believing to hold the soul of the nation, and it is a symbol of mystical bond among all Ashanti.
The Ashanti people also believe that individual stools can hold the soul of the person it belongs to, or their sunsum, which they believed would inhabit things that they touched frequently, such as the stools they sit on to do ordinary things like eat, talk, and more.
Many men and women are given stools by their parents when they come of age, as shown here, but they are nowhere near as important as the golden stool.
And this is shown in the materials of these stools, as they are made of wood, not gold. According to legend, the stool was brought down from heaven by a priest and fell into the lap of the Ashanti king, Osei Tutu.
The importance of the stool was shown greatly in 1900 during the War of the Golden Stool.
During this war, a British representative attempted to sit on the golden stool, igniting uproar among the Ashanti and a subsequent rebellion. The stool was then hidden and continued to be sought after by the British into 1921.
The stool was found by a team of laborers who stripped it of its golden ornaments and left the rest, which was only wood.
Ever since, replicas have been used in ceremonies, but each replica is different.
The stool was never actually used as a stool. It even had its own stool to be placed on.
Yes, the stool wouldn't even be touched by anyone other than the new king after being raised over the stool.
That's all. We hope you enjoyed learning about these artworks from Africa.
Thank you.